Welcome, friends. Welcome back to the kitchen. Welcome back to Sunday Morning and the Old Cookbook Show. Today we're going to do a recipe out of this old cookbook sent in by a viewer. Thank you very much for sending it in. It was part of the box of books that we opened on Wednesday. And it's called The Biro Home Recipes, Scones, Cakes, Pastries, and Puddings. Now, Biro is a company. Biro or Barrow? The hyphen makes me think that it's Biro, but I can't be sure. It's not a brand that I'm familiar with, not a brand that I've ever seen before. It's not sold here in Canada, or at least in any of the grocery stores in Canada that I go to. They are from Newcastle on Tyne. And it's quite an interesting cookbook. It's from the 1920s, certainly filled with ideas from the 1920s. At no point in the front section do they even consider that a boy would go in the kitchen and do some baking. Just little girls. But, you know, I think boys should be in the kitchen. Cooking. Learn how to cook. Please learn how to cook. It's a life skill that will serve you forever. There's my little rant. Anyway, there's more rants to come, though, so wait. We're going to make Biro Granny Loaf. Because it is a recipe that tickles me. There's other recipes in here that I wanted to do. The Biro Girdle Cakes, which I take to be something like a Welsh cake. And I have a recipe for Welsh cakes on the side of the fridge that I'm going to pull off and bring out and do shortly, because I really love Welsh cakes. Anyway, we're going to do Biro Granny Loaf, because it is something that my grandmother would make. Definitely something that my grandmother would make, and it sounds like something I would really enjoy. But this cookbook presents us with a problem. Biro is self-raising flour. Not self-rising flour, self-raising flour. Now, they're an English company. They speak English. They've written this book in English. The giant country behind me, across the lake, they also speak English, but they use English differently. The country that I'm in, Canada, we speak English and French, and we use both English and French differently than everyone around us. Which brings us back to self-raising flour. Self-raising flour and self-rising flour are two different things. Self-raising flour is the English product. It is flour, usually plain flour, which is roughly equivalent to all-purpose flour, and a leavening agent, which could be a combination of baking soda and baking powder, or different types of baking powders, depending on the brand. In the United States, self-rising flour is often cake flour, though sometimes it is all-purpose, which just to confuse things. A leavening agent, same as the self-raising, but it also includes salt. Salt is not part of the English formula, which is why this recipe calls for salt to be added. In Canada, we have an unfortunate brand that is called self-raising flour, but has salt. So it's more like self-rising flour from the US, but uses the nomenclature of the English. And I don't know if Robin Hood just didn't get the memo. They didn't understand what they were making, and they chose the English name, but the American formula. It's interesting because the French side, I understand completely. Farine préparée. I know exactly what's going on. Okay, enough talking. Let's get to the recipe. We've got our self-raising flour, and this is Canadian self-raising, so it does have salt, so I'm not going to add the salt that's in the recipe. Got sugar, and this is some lard that I've rendered myself. And it's going to be great. What about the rest of the Commonwealth? What do you call it? Self-raising, self-rising? Does it have salt? Does it not have salt? Do you even have it? Let us know down in the comments below. It could be very confusing. Now, this is mixed spice. You see it in a lot of English recipes, and it is just that. It is a mixed spice, not readily available at a lot of Canadian grocery stores. You have to go to the oldie English shoppy, and they're littered all across Canada. You can go and get it, or you can just make it yourself, and I will put that recipe in the comments below, or in the description box below. So I'm going to put that in, and we'll just pulse it a couple more times. Okay, the flour, sugar, spice mixture with the lard. You're supposed to rub it in with your fingers, but I really like doing that. But there's days where I just don't have time, and doing it in a food processor gets you a really good, consistent mixture. Next, raisins and currants. Currants are just another type of raisin, which is kind of funny. And mixed peel or cut peel. And so I'm going to put that in. I know a lot of people don't like this electric red stuff that I've got here. I really like it. If you don't like it, then, you know, buy the more sedate citron, which is just the lemon peel. I kind of like this stuff. And so I'll just toss this a little bit. Now we need milk. And I've cut the recipe in half because this the whole recipe makes 2 loaves. I really only need 1 loaf. And so I'll just mix the milk in a little bit at a time, just till I get the right consistency. And I've never made this before, so I don't know exactly what the right consistency is, but you do this long enough and you kind of get a feel for what you think might be right. Yeah, okay, I think that's great. Looks pretty good. Okay, now I have a greased loaf pan. Now the recipe reads, put into 2 small greased bread tins. I cut the recipe in half, so I only need 1, and I'm pretty sure that this gargantuan North American 2024 bread pan is too large. I looked for something smaller down in the equipment room, and I couldn't find anything that would be right. So I'm going to give it a go. I know that it's not going to rise, and it's not going to be very loaf-like. It will be a much lower cake in this pan because it is too big. But you know what? In 1924 or 25, when this book was published, people just sort of went with it, and they made do with what they had. They weren't so worried that they didn't have the right pan. Unless, of course, they were entering some sort of contest. So I probably could have made the entire recipe and filled this tin maybe to about that point and made 1 decent loaf, because that's not much in the bottom of this pan. We'll be okay. We'll get a good taste and we'll find out what it's all about. So into the oven and away we go. Okay, so.
Hey, Glenn, that's a very pretty
Jules.
cake. Although it doesn't, it looks more like, somehow it looks like a biscuit.
Grainy loaf. It doesn't look like the picture.
It never does. Well, the picture's black and white. Let's start with that.
Okay,
No, but it looks like, that looks like it's like a loaf, like it's like.
So here's the thing. I cut the recipe in half because
Okay.
it makes 2 loaves. And then I realized that the 1920s 2 small bread tins from England are probably
Oh, those tiny little.
a third of the size of this.
Yeah, they'd be those tiny little ones. That, yeah.
Yeah. And so I probably should have made the whole amount to put in that tin. But just touching it, the texture seems pretty good.
But is it a biscuit? Is there any? What do you got for leavening?
It's a quick bread.
Okay. Yeah, it's nice and soft. Nice and soft. I like all the fruity bits because I like fruity bits. A little toast, a little honey.
Yes. Toasted with a little bit of butter, this would be fantastic. Heat it up.
Oh, honey.
Honey.
I go with honey.
I'm going to go with butter.
Yeah.
So that's the flavor compound.
So what do we got in it?
It's called mixed spice. It's a very English thing.
You bought it?
No, I made it. I looked up on the internet and found
I'm like, where did you find mixed spice?
at the oldie English shoppy down the way. They'd probably have it. You know, the one with the... Anyway.
So I'm guessing some allspice? Cinnamon?
Cinnamon, allspice, ginger, mace, nutmeg, clove.
So really
I
close
think I'm missing something.
So really close to pumpkin spice, but in a different ratio.
Yeah, and it kind of goes off in a different ratio, and it
Yeah.
kind of goes off to one side.
I like it though.
So the directions for this will be down below. I would make this
Make the
full
whole thing.
amount, for today's type of baking pan. And wherever you are in the world, go to your cupboard and pull out your bag of self-rising flour or self-raising flour. Tell me where you are on the planet, what it says on the bag, self-raising, self-rising, and whether or not yours contains salt.
Ah. Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.
The Barrow spice buns. Or B-row spice buns.
I didn't know. Is it B-row or Barrow? Barrow? B-row?
Barrow
Barrow?
flour.